Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Results Mastery podcast live stream. Whether you're listening on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, you're on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to it. Thanks for doing so. I really do appreciate it. I always believe that the biggest commitment that people make is not a financial commitment, which obviously this is free, but even more expensive is your commitment in terms of time for being here. That's the real cost, isn't it? We all got things that we could be doing, we should be doing, and so on and so forth. But you're here, you're spending time. We're going to be about, I don't know, a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. And my goal, my aim is to provide you with the best possible outcome for your time that you spend with me. Today, we're going to be looking at how to improve sales and marketing results. Now, I can tell you one thing, and it's a real foundational belief that I've held now for 31 years. I've spent 31 years helping businesses to grow. I've worked with over 10,000 businesses, and I've helped them achieve an average of 45%, which I think is brilliant, particularly considering that some of them have been on my workshops, I've worked with them, and they've done virtually nothing and got no results, surprise, surprise. So in actual fact, out of the ones that actually took my advice and implemented and kept doing it and doing it and doing it, they've probably achieved even more than that. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about how you can do it, how you can follow the system that I've developed to increase your sales and marketing results. I want to be clear about this. I'm not a brand expert. I'm not a designer. I'm not going to tell you to go and get a prettier website or improve your logo. You know, those sorts of things ain't going to get you more leads, and they're not going to help you convert more of those leads into sales. Don't get me wrong, they're important. If you're great at what you do and you've got a brand that looks like it was, I don't know, you got a business card that looks like it was bought on one of those motorway service stations. Do you remember those? I don't think they have them now, do they? But I do remember them in my dim and distant past. But anyway, yeah. So let's talk about firstly one of the most important things. If you want to improve your sales and marketing results, then you've got to improve your numbers. And in order to improve those numbers, you got to know what they are. There's an old saying in business, isn't there, that, numbers are the currency of business. There's another saying that goes, you cannot manage what you do not measure. And those things, I believe, are very, very true. And yet when I work with businesses, I would estimate that somewhere in the region of 95% of them have no clue when I first start working with them of their sales and marketing numbers. They just don't know what they are. And that for me is a real shame. And the problem with that is that when you change things, you can often improve things. And that's the way how marketing works. I mentioned a little bit earlier that, all marketing works. Everything that you could do works. The biggest problem is it doesn't work all the time. And what I see time and time and time again is people going, I'm gonna do Facebook advertising. That's the thing. I've got a friend who's doing it really, really well and getting loads of business. That's what I'm going to do. So they set up their advert without really knowing what how to do so. They develop a landing page, which at best is average. And lo and behold, 3 weeks later, they've spent a load of money. They've spent £300-400 and they've got no leads. So they go, well, that's a waste of time. That doesn't work. Let's try Facebook. Let's try Google advertising or LinkedIn advertising. Or actually, do you know what? Advertising doesn't work at all. I've heard that many times, and that is just unbelievably not true. It doesn't always work, and it's a hard nut to crack. But if you crack it, it works fantastic. I got a client who came to me breaking even on their Facebook advertising. We improved it to get him a 4-to-1 return on investment. For every pound he put in, he got 4 back. We then worked on it. We improved the landing page. We improved the words on the advert. We improved the targeting and the keywords and so on. And we got that up to an 8. We then got it up to a 12. He got, for every pound he spent, he got 12 back. And as we went through that process, we gradually increased the amount of money he spent, till at the end, he was spending £32,000 a month, guys, and getting whatever 12 times that is back. And he said to me, "What do you think I should do, Steve?" I said, "Well, if I was you, I'd double it. I'd go 64 grand. I went, "Oh, bloody heck." He said, "But you're right, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I am. Yeah. I mean, it may or may not, be totally 12%, might go down 1 month to only 10%, or maybe up to 14%. But, sorry, not percent, but times. Yeah. So it's, it's a significant increase. If you spend £1,000, they give you £12,000 back. That's what he was doing, and he was spending 32,000. I haven't worked that out. I had to work that out, didn't I? It's must got to be many hundreds of thousands of pounds a month in business. But there we go. So number one then is to measure your results. Let's just talk about that. So what results are you talking about? I'm talking about, firstly, the high level results. That's the number of leads you get. How many of those turn into meetings? How many of those turn into sales? How much is that sales worth? You might have 6 sales of £10,000, so it's £60,000. You with me? The next level down is, where did those leads come from? Did they come from LinkedIn, from your website, from email marketing, from social media, and so on and so forth? And then the layer underneath that, if you want to go down that far, and I'd suggest to start with you don't, but if you did, it might be things like, how many contacts have you got on LinkedIn? How many posts did you do this month? How many emails have you sent out? What is your email open rate? These are all numbers that are really important. How many people visited your website? How many inquiries did you get from your website? So you can quickly work out that for every 100 people that visit your website, you get 5 inquiries. All you got to do is get more people to visit your website, isn't it? Assuming the conversion rates there. So that's step one, really, really important. Step two is, I want to talk you through briefly my results mastery system. And that is this. You can see it on the wall behind me, actually. First thing is to overcome obscurity. So how are we going to do that? We're going to look at what you're doing. If I was working with you on a one-to-one basis now, the first thing we'd do is have a look at what you're doing. So let's say, for example, you got a website, you're on social media, but you're only posting on, I'll use LinkedIn as an example, on LinkedIn a couple of times a week, and you connect to a few people, but not very many. You're sending out a monthly newsletter via email, and you're going to a couple of networking events. That, give or take, is reasonably the way people do it. So we got to overcome obscurity. So what are we going to do? We're going to work on improving what we're doing. That's the first step. See at the bottom there, whether it says better, more, new. That's the system that I use. We're going to get it better. We're going to get better results, because I can tell you the results you're getting on LinkedIn, if you're like 95% of businesses that I speak to, they get no results on LinkedIn. They don't win any business on social media. And, why is that? It's because they've got the wrong system in place. So they need to develop another system. They need to do things differently. And that could include doing more, as it says on the board behind me, doing more of it. So more posting, that's a good idea. Connecting to more people, that would be good as well. Improving, so we're now into better. We want to have a better profile. We want to improve the quality of the post that we're using. We want to be better at driving traffic to our website, because that is a great way of using LinkedIn to get traffic to your website. Another better would be actually I'll put it under new, would be to use a LinkedIn newsletter. If you've not got a LinkedIn newsletter, why not? It's a really, really powerful tool that LinkedIn will help you promote. The first edition I ever sent out, it went out and LinkedIn sent it to thousands of people, and I got 250 people subscribe. I did another one next week, I got another 250, another one the week after, I got another 250, and so on. And it's just built and built and built over time. And that's a database now that I can market to for nothing, free, doesn't cost me anything at all, providing information to all the people who've subscribed. I can then push it out on my profile, so I get even more people subscribe. And what do I do on there? Because I want to get better at using it. There's no point doing it if you don't ever win any business, is there? That's the definition of madness. Keep doing things that don't, I think it was Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same things again and again and expecting a different result. So there's no point doing that. So if you've got a newsletter that's not creating business, we got to work on the better part of it. So the better part of it would be creating links going back to your website, or calls to action, so that you're asking people to do something like sign up to something, or like a report, or perhaps a live event like this is, or to book a meeting with you. You might also want to show them a video of you that you think would be of value, and so on and so forth. So I'm taking it that I'm hallucinating that you're getting this. I really hope you are. If you do have any questions, do feel free to ask me anything that you would like. I'll just put that on the screen there. Do ask any questions. I will answer them at the end. But feel free to ask any questions. So we've got the first step then, is we're going to examine each and every element of your marketing under a microscope and work out, do we need to do this better? Do we need to do more of it? And then thirdly, what is there new that we're not doing? So if you're not doing Google ads, that might be something to do. If you've not done any work on the search engine optimization of your website, then that might be something that's worth doing. Do you get the picture here? I really hope you do. So if you need any help with this, by the way, this is my specialist subject. 30 years, as I mentioned, 10,000 businesses, and average growth within 12 months of 45%. I want to just put a caveat on that, because you may be thinking, well, Steve's not helped, somebody like Apple or Vodafone or Microsoft. No, they've got their own guys. They don't need Steve. I work with small businesses, helping them to grow. So I'm talking about small businesses. Right now, it's anything from startup up to 12 million. Just excuse me for a second, but for some reason, my Alexa is going off. I'm going to turn it off. Alexa, off. There we go. That was really weird. I wasn't expecting to be doing anything at this time, but it's just gone off. I use that all the time, by the way. Alexa is a great, it's one of those little round things, that you talk to and ask it to play music or whatever. But I schedule all my meetings and things like that based on that. So, every day I get up and I say, right, I'll not say the word, but it begins with A, and it's the thing I've just turned off. Schedule a meeting for me for 10 o'clock. I'm meeting with Fred Blogs, and so on and so forth. So I don't ever turn up late. I always know what I'm doing. And I'm slightly nervous right now, thinking, should I be somewhere else? But I don't think so. I'm not quite sure what's happened. But anyway, okay, let's crack on. So second step then is, once you've got these people, we've got to keep in regular contact with them. Again, it's such a big mistake when people don't. I get people all the time, connect to me on LinkedIn. They say, will you connect? And I go, yeah. And that's the last time I ever hear from them. Unless I do something, they don't ever go back to me. We've done that at networking event. How many networking events have I been to? Thousands. I picked up business cards, and do you know how many people in round figures have contacted me afterwards? Zero. Not one business has ever contacted me from a networking event. I contact them, but they don't contact me. And if I'm delayed for whatever reason, I'd never hear from them again. Which is really weird, I think. But anyway, that's just me. So next stop is know, like, and trust. We're communicating, and we've got to build that know, like, and trust. So how are we going to do that? Well, we can do that through meeting people. There's an old saying that you need 7 hours of content, and you need to communicate with people 11 times, and you need to communicate with them on 4 different medias. So you might communicate with them on video, you might meet them live, you might send them an email, you might connect to them and message them on LinkedIn. There's your 4. You do that 11 times over a period of time, and you get people to know, like, and trust you. I believe that a lot of people say to me at this point, oh, well, I don't want to bombard people. No, and you don't want to neglect them either. Think of it as like a marriage or a relationship. If I met a young lady and decided to take her out, we have a great evening. I said, look, I really enjoyed it. I'd love to see you again. And she says, yeah, I'd love to see you. And I say, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I don't want to bombard you, so I'll send you an email in 3 months' time. How about that? No, I don't want to do that. I want to meet her again soon. I want to message her. I want to send her a WhatsApp. I want to text her something, tell her the following morning how much I enjoyed it. Maybe being the old-fashioned guy, I want to send her a bunch of flowers. How about that, But you get the idea. Okay, so know, like, and trust. Next one, we've got to get this lady, or in your case, this customer, responding. There's no point me sending text messages, sending her flowers, and if she just blanks me, that's no good. That's like, oh, something's going wrong here. So we've got to start to turn that goodwill into two-way communications. When we've done that, we need to turn that into meetings. So we've got to get meetings. We also need to think about how do we make sure that people turn up to meetings, because that these days is a real challenge, I think, particularly done online. So we need to make sure people do that. And then lastly, we need to get better at turning meetings into sales. I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes just to think about something which is quite important. If you get 10 leads, and at the moment that equals, let's say, 4 meetings and 2 sales, right? If you could improve, actually, no, let me change that. If you got 10 meetings and that equaled 2 sales, if you could improve your conversion rate by just 20%, that would equal 4 sales. Now, over time, that one number would double the size of your business. Get that, yeah? Go from 20% to 40%. That's a 20% improvement. But over time, if you do that every month for the next year, you will have doubled the size of your business. So the question is, how are you going to do that then, Steve? Well, it starts by taking this thing called sales and marketing, actually, more seriously. Because in my experience, you're probably playing at it. Let me just give you a couple of tips on the meeting conversion. Firstly, you need a system, a process. What actually happens? You need to keep on keeping on. A good friend of mine, Peter Thompson, he says, keep going till they die or buy. Now, he's slightly tongue-in-cheek and maybe a little bit extreme, but the point is really valid, and that is that people give up far, far too easy. So keep on keeping on. We then need to train yourself. Train yourself in the skills that you need to be better at closing, better at converting and running meetings. How do you do that? Well, you don't go to a one-day seminar once a year. Most people don't even do that. I spoke at an event up in Birmingham recently, and there were over 1,000 people in the room. And I said, can I just have a show of hands before I start? Who's responsible for sales? I got 1,000 hands. I then said, okay, next question is, who's done any sales training in the last year? I got about 50, 5% of them had done any training whatsoever. I then said, okay, hands up if you've hit target in the last year. And do you know what? To a person, it was almost the same 50. Right now, if you haven't learned anything else from this time that you've spent with me, that is worth its weight in gold, right? You need to be better at selling and marketing. You need to be better at overcoming objections like, I can't afford it. I want to think about it. I'm going to get 3 quotes. What do you say when those things happen? You don't just wing it, you know it. Okay. So that's about it. That's all I'm going to give you for today. I hope that's been of value. What I really hope is that you'll use it. And what I hope even more than that is you'll book a meeting with me, because that's my purpose. That's why I'm here. I'm hoping that people who watch this video will go to my website, which you can see scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. If you're watching on audio, no, Steve, people don't watch on audio. If you're listening on audio, perhaps you're on iTunes or something like that, then my website is results-mastery.com. That's results-mastery.com. Just go there, book a meeting. We can do it over Zoom, so there's no traveling. And I look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you ever so much for your time, and wish you every success in your business. Thank you.